How safe is to be solo traveling as a woman in Mexico via China? My name is Mar, and as you can see from my clothing, I am from Mexico and I was previously solo traveling in China. And I thought it would be a good, interesting idea for me to give you some insights regarding my experiences traveling by myself in China. Funny enough, since I arrived to Mexico in like 2020 because of COVID, just a month before that, better said, since I stay here because of COVID, because it was not my intention to stay here, I haven't been traveling by myself anymore. So, yeah. And whenever I'm back in China, I'm just traveling. It's just easy, convenient, and safe. But hold your horses. This is not the end of the video. There are so many solo travelers also coming to Mexico. And by the way, the last time I landed in LA, there was this Chinese girl who was like somehow caught on the custom area, and she was from China, coming from China. She was asked a lot of questions because she was about my age. I think it was precise my age, like 37. And she was being asked and questioned, why was she by herself? Why did he had all that luggage? Why was she traveling to the USA for a month and then to Mexico for another month by herself? It was very weird. And she, after in the luggage section, told me, I've been traveling by myself. I love it. I'm going to go to Cancun. I'm going to go to Cabo. I'm going to go to this and that place. And she was so comfortable, This solo travel women era is happening. No matter in America or in Asia, women from all over the world are deciding to go on travels, especially if they're single and, they want to have some experiences, some fun, get some wisdom, get out of the stressful routine. So yeah, what is your reason to travel? Would you like to travel to Mexico or China? I think both are great. And just for the record, guys, this is not a comparison or anything regarding which country is better or why would you prefer to go this or here. No, both of them have positives and negatives. Let's just get over that, okay? Yeah. Anyway, the first is safety. Generally considered safe, China, for solo female travelers with low levels of violent crime. Petty crimes like pickpocketing can occur especially in crowded areas. So let me give you a story about this. Yeah, usually I didn't end up seeing that much of a violence since when I was living in China for the whole 10 plus years there, compared to what is happening now here in Mexico, sadly. But it's not like you get to see it, but it's happening in the news and it's happening around. Let's say I have friends of friends or shops that I used to shop from. Suddenly the owner, this past Day of the Dead, they put this altar. Somehow the owner is gone because of that or this or that reason. So yeah, there's not much violence in China. Nonetheless, you have to be careful. And in Mexico, compared to Mexico, you have perhaps watched the news and it's just not a very safe place to be, especially if you're a girl, especially if you're a foreigner and you're beautiful and you somehow seem to have money or you have a great body and etc., etc. You have to be very careful, and I wouldn't dare to just be exploring wherever by myself. This is my best advice for you if you happen to be coming to Mexico. So here we do have this kind of violent crimes, rapes, abduction? I'm not sure if that is called. Anyways, people disappearing day by day and such and such. So about the pickpocketing, I do have a story back in the day when I was living in Shenzhen, me and my girlfriend, my classmate from Shenzhen University, that was a Guatemalan girl. We went to this place which girls love, which is called Dongmen. I'm not sure whether you have been there or not, but you should go there because it's a commercial street area in Shenzhen where you can find clothing and foods, and basically that's it, a lot of shoes, clothes, accessories, and all kind of like street foods. So we love to go there because we like to do our nails there. We like to do our just grooming. It was cheap when we were students. Haircut, purchase some earrings and such. My girlfriend used to love getting clothes there. I it wasn't my preference because you know clothes there are not the best quality. Anyhow, once we were there in the metro station subway Laojié, it was so packed and crammed with people that we didn't realize until later on that the bag of my friend had been somehow open or cut with a knife, and the whole entire content of the bag was gone. So yeah, this is the only one time where I recall at this very moment that we have this kind of issue, but it was not a violent one compared to like the Mexican casual, like things that happen here on an everyday basis, and you better don't expose yourself to that. So this was like we were just walking in the metro station and the station was crowded, and somehow someone got to cut that bag of my friend in order to stole her bag and her stuff inside. So that was what we experienced. Just like here, it says like pickpocketing can occur, especially in crowded areas. And after that, I realized it, and I also learned why is that Chinese will always be carrying their bags in front. I don't know if you have noticed that, but whenever there is a crowded area, you will not have your backpack like at the back, at this backside, or even a bag. You will not have it here because people can just pickpocket. So the best advice is just to have it in front, and you will just be like really protecting your bag. That's the best you can do. Don't have your bag at the back or at the side. Have it in front. Yeah. So that was our story for pickpocketing. I didn't experience yet. I don't want to experience anything. In Mexico, we knock on wood just to avoid that for coming to us whenever we say something that is not like, pleasant to occur. And yeah, so let's say in Mexico, yeah, also this pickpocketing and whatever else of more severe grade can occur. Let's say you have your valuables in your bag and you are just traveling around Mexico. It's very likely that if you look foreigner, people can also abuse from you. Like whenever you are not very aware, stuff is just being stolen. And also there is this one other thing, when I was going into cafes here, when I was like a student, let's say I go to Starbucks, and sometimes I see people just leaving their valuables at the table and going to the toilet. Like valuables, I mean laptop, cell phone, charger, or the whole entire backpack or bag. And I'm very surprised. Like no matter the place is a high class, first class, 5 stars, shopping mall, hotel, restaurant area, like a Starbucks around those places, you have to be careful. You have to be careful, and I will not advise you to leave your valuables just unseen. It's just very awkward how people will just go to the toilet and leave their valuables there, because as far as I know, in some places around the world, let's say USA maybe, I'm not sure, you tell me. Nowadays I've also heard the news like these small crimes are on the rise because people is in need of more money, right? People is just struggling financially. So maybe in those areas or in first world countries, it's common to just be sitting in a cafe and you have to go to the toilet and you leave your valuables at the table, like very well aware that when you are back, they're gonna be there. Maybe Japan, even you can forget your bag somewhere and nobody will touch it. But it's not the case, at least not for Mexico. Even the place is, a nice place. I wouldn't advise you to do so. Sometimes here people come to the extent that even if you are having a meal in a restaurant and your bag is here, you better don't put it there. you have to put your bag in front of your eyesight, like just be watching for it the whole time. So yeah, that can occur as well, even if it's not a crowded area. A few years ago, my sister was just walking down the road, chatting in her cell phone. And here in Mexico, we have the moto stealers. They call it moto stealers because they steal with a motor, like motorbike. So that one person will be like, whenever you're walking in the street and just like texting, that one motorcycle will come over and grab your phone and just run away, just run in the motorcycle. So it's like very unlikely for you to reach them or somehow get your phone back. And in that case, you cannot call anyone like, whatever, who police, or my cell phone got stolen by this motor. It's just gone for good. So this happened to my sister, and she was just crying all over. She got that phone stolen from her hand when she was walking like that. So it's very unlikely, and therefore I'm not making like that many videos here in Mexico in this kind of way, just walking and blogging. This I wouldn't advise you to do because it's very common, the phone stealing here, the phone stealing issues. Compared to China, I was blogging there. You can see my channel, like previous videos. I was always like, in China it's not common, no matter where you are, even crowded, or at least as far as I know, crowded or remote places, poor areas, rich areas, that your phone will be stolen. It's quite unlikely. I don't know why. But in Latin America, especially in Mexico, it's common, no matter which area. Poor, rich, remote, small, crowded, alone. So just be aware that if you are walking down the street of Mexico, if it's not a shopping mall, you better keep your phone on your pocket. Not be walking and like chatting, watching videos, texting, because somebody can just come over and steal it from you, and it's over for you. So yeah. Another aspect is local customs often support women's safety, and there is a strong police presence. In regards to China, I will say there are a lot of police presence. There is a lot of police presence almost everywhere. Nowadays we have the cybersecurity. There are cameras watching you. They have your ID number. They have your face on the screen. So it's more kind of, it's very controlled, compared to 10 years ago when I was living there. So in any case that something happens, they can get faster to whoever was the one causing the problem. Nonetheless, in regards to safety, there's police and everything. Sometimes I've been watching some videos, and just listen, I'm not discrediting the security or the control in China. I'm just saying from my experience what I've seen, that some men are hitting women, because we're talking about women here and women's safety, not foreigners. I believe somehow they have foreigners in a higher hierarchy of do not touch them. But I've seen the husband hits the wife with even a full tall stick, and the police is just next there, doesn't move. There are so many videos in TikTok, Douyin, Chinese version, when that one guy is somehow abusing of a woman, a Chinese woman, just for the record. And the guard is there, the police is there, not doing much. So yeah, but as far as my experience goes, it doesn't happen that much with foreigners. Nonetheless, you have to be careful, because I have some stories from the girls in my Spanish channel who are dating Chinese men, but this is another kind of scenario, not a traveling one. Okay, so you're gonna be safe as far as there's guards and police. Compared to Mexico, it's not the case. The streets just now, if I open this window back then, it's so dark. There's poor lighting. in the public streets compared to China. It's quite lighten up, and you kind of don't feel that risk of something happening to you. I was walking back home when I was living in Shenzhen from the markets at 12 a.m., almost 1 a.m., for like 2 km, 2 kilometers or more, and I wouldn't feel any kind of, how to say, I wouldn't feel threatened by something happening to me, either a man or a drunk man or an abuser. Mexico is not the case. You don't have to wait to 1 a.m. to feel you kind of are at risk. When the sun is down, you better don't go out. It's just better. Of course, you're gonna maybe think I'm exaggerating and that you can still go have some fun to the club, or you can have this and that. If you're a foreigner, I'm not sure, but at least I wouldn't advise you to go and walk in the streets when sun is down. Of course, you can go to shopping malls and go to the cinema and go to restaurants and bars, but not walking just by yourself around the streets. So yeah, in China, I wouldn't feel that kind of like always you have to be looking at your back, that somebody is not following you or somebody is not kind of gonna appear from nowhere and abuse you. So yeah, this is what I'm not really enjoying about Mexico. I used to love having like night walks in China. It's so comfortable, And by the way, talking about night walks, I'm gonna get to something very soon. So the cultural norms, Chinese culture is generally respectful towards women, but there are maybe some traditional views depending on the region. Engaging with locals can sometimes lead to curiosity about your background, but most interactions are friendly. So in this regard, it says like, usually the Chinese men will be polite, respectful towards women, but of course, China is a very big country, so there are different regions, different traditions in each city or each like village. So some of them can vary depending on the area. And of course, just like in Mexico, let's say in the big cities like Shenzhen, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, they are cosmopolitan cities. So everyone is more well educated. They are more civilized in a way. They have broadened vision because they have interacted with foreigners. They live in a daily basis with foreigners. They are working with them, doing business with them, studying with them. So somehow they have this like approach of like respecting them, and like already they know what foreigners are like, compared to maybe some small areas around China, small towns where you can end up going as a girl, especially if you're beautiful and you are like, voluptuous, if you are this kind of Latina having a great body, or this kind of like a Russian, beautiful, white, pale skin, blue eyes, beautiful hair. People in those areas where they rarely see foreigners will be mesmerized by your beauty and your like exceptional shine, and sometimes somehow it can get to the point of being like uncomfortable, to which extent that people, men will, or women as well, will be wanting to take pictures with you. Not just that, but like will be looking at you in some not very a warming way, because they are like, you are attractive to them. So they can be approaching you and try to take a picture or whatever and touch you. And this is just not comfortable, maybe at some times that you don't want to hang out or handle with people. And you have to be, some bearing with it. So yeah, usually they will be curious, and although most interactions can be friendly, it's just annoying that you get to the table and you are invited to eat with Chinese, and the Chinese man wants you to drink and you don't want to drink, and because you're very beautiful or like that, all of them want to. I'm not talking about myself, by the way, but I have previously had this experience with friends. Yeah, maybe sometimes myself when I was young and beautiful, and they just keep pushing me to drink with them, or like sing with them or dance with them in a very close way whenever they were already drunk enough, to abuse. And I just felt, you. So just be aware of that even if you're a beautiful girl and you think that China is safe and friendly because all the rest of the videos say so, upon my experience, when Chinese men get drunk, I mean, when any man in the world get drunk, they want to be near you, they want to approach you, or maybe they want to try to, so just try to avoid that. In any case, that you are just very surprised, wow, Chinese men are inviting me to dinner, Chinese men are somehow sponsoring this and that. Yeah, but maybe most of the times will come with a price or a cost. So just preferably stay away from those kind of interactions where there is alcohol, karaoke, big dinners where you can keep being pushed to drink baijiu and such. Hopefully you girls, hopefully someone here will understand what I'm talking about and will confirm that in the comment section, because otherwise maybe some others can just be coming and commenting things that are like not validating my own experiences. Okay, regarding Mexico, is a little bit different. So the cultural norms towards women, I mean, we are working very hard towards that, but it's just very different. Let's say that in Mexico you are wearing a skirt. People are just looking at your legs. Men are just like turning heads and like, you, beautiful, hermosa. That rarely happens in China. Even if you wear a very short skirt, men will not turn heads. Men will rarely look. They are just stuck in their phones. So that doesn't happen with breasts. Somehow Chinese men are so attracted to like big breast girls. Maybe you're gonna answer in the comment section, because the girls don't have big breasts. Well, some Chinese do. Anyhow, they have this attractive thing, like obsession for breasts, but not for legs. In Mexico, in contrast, men here love to see legs like dogs. And if you're wearing a skirt, a short skirt or a short, you will be turning heads all day long, and that somehow can bring unwanted attention, like unwanted comments, low class kind of behavior, and even to the extent of being a victim of a violent crime. So therefore, some girls here nowadays avoid to dress in dresses, like some attractive clothing, short clothing. I was very, very surprised when I first arrived to Shenzhen. Of course, it's warm weather. Also, when I was in Beijing, but in Beijing didn't happen as much because it's colder. And in Shenzhen, girls and women, like middle-aged or even elderly, they were all using these short shorts. I believe also maybe in the USA or in Middle East or Europe, men will also be very delighted to see legs. You let me know in the comment section if it's like that. But at least in Mexico or Latin America, Spanish-speaking, like Hispanic world, this is a very attractive asset for a man of a woman to be able to see her legs. And in China, it doesn't seem so. Like, there are so many girls on an everyday basis just wearing shorts and nobody's like paying attention to it. So that somehow brought me some comfort whenever I was using like short shorts. Like, men will not be looking, at least not Chinese men, maybe foreigners will, but that felt comfortable because in here it's not very safe sometimes to use attractive clothing, since you can attract some unwanted attention from, like, those kind of men that you would like to avoid. And yeah, in regards to curiosity and friendly interactions in Mexico, yeah, here men will be very attracted to blonde girls because we are here not having many blondes. And if you are a girl coming from the UK, Russia, etc., you will be like a star, and people will try to approach you. So yeah, as a language barrier, English is not widely spoken outside major cities in China, which can be a challenge if you're traveling solo and you are like needing help to communicate or having an emergency somehow. And learning basic Chinese Mandarin phrases or using a translation app or machine, as I was previously saying in the other video, can be very helpful. In this case, yeah, I will have to agree. It was my experience. I previously learned Mandarin, therefore I could be able to travel solo by myself to remote places. I have been in some places where I never saw any other foreigner, and I've been in places where everything seems like it's a very old-fashioned China, not like the new fashion one that you seem to look on or seem to know, like Shanghai, big skyscrapers and such. No. So in those areas, it's very rare that people will be speaking English. And if you're traveling there, it's going to be very hard for you to communicate or to find your way. Even to travel to there is going to be hard because you have to purchase maybe your online train, via your phone online. And if it's in Chinese and this and that, it can be troublesome. So in that regard, I believe that is the main reason why there are not many foreigners in remote areas around China, because they are somehow limited for the English Chinese barrier. But nowadays we have that translation pen, which I believe it can make a big difference to unite worlds. Nonetheless, you better learn yourself some basic words, helpful words in the case you have an emergency. Please help me. I need just have a vocab sheet with you whenever you're traveling to China, either a cosmopolitan city or a remote village, in order to be able to say something if you are in need of it. And this language barrier in Mexico, it can be less. Like, if you get to travel to small towns, maybe as well it can be a little bit of a problem. But nowadays it's very awkward because small towns in Mexico called magic towns are being more populated by foreigners than with Mexicans. So in those places, English seems to be quite popular. So maybe that's not going to be a problem for you, although the majority of Mexicans are not very fluent in English. No matter we have US as our neighbor, as you can see I'm having troubles with communicating in English. Anyhow, the barrier is just very different from being in China and being in Mexico and not speaking English, and being in China and people not speaking English and not understand you and seeing you as a foreign thing. Here, somehow it gets smoother. And usually, if you're traveling here, you're gonna be traveling to places that are touristic, and people already kind of figure it out. So you will find your way there, because there are translators, or English signs, or they are very willing to take your dollars, so they are going to the extent of understanding you somehow. Here in Mexico, I'm saying. So yeah, what about transportation? Public transportation is extensive and generally safe in China. Taxis and rideshare service like Didi are really available, but it's best to have your destination written in Chinese. Oh yeah, this is a pain. Okay, for this one, public transportation is not very safe. It's not very convenient in Mexico. And yeah, there have been so very many disgusting stories regarding women riding Ubers, not just like common taxis like Uber, and not like coming back home again. I'm not saying for you not to take an Uber, but just be very careful. Again, this happens usually night times. So in China, yeah, it's quite convenient to take the Didi, but if you are not well aware of how to write in Chinese and the APP and all that, maybe it can be a little bit difficult. Nonetheless, having your written address is the better. I remember when I didn't know Chinese, or even to this day, it's more convenient to just take the name card from the hotel, hostel, whatever restaurant you are traveling to, and you will save yourself from the hassle of trying to communicate the place to the taxi driver, like la 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 la. You just show the card and that's it. I remember when we were in China, there was this guy from Venezuela coming over and he wanted to go to Windows of the World in Shenzhen. There's this park there. And Windows of the World is called in Chinese Shi Che Chi Chuang. Am I right? I don't know. Anyways, maybe the tones are not right. Shi Che Chi Chuang. So he was just like, when we grabbed the taxi, he said like, we are going to Shi Chi Chi Chi. I was like laughing because he didn't know the words, he didn't know the tones. He just say Chi 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 Chi, just something like that. So yeah, it's just that sometimes addresses can be complicated. I'm not saying that you have to speak Chinese, but let's say you want to say Hilton Hotel or like Shangri-La. It's just complicated. If you keep saying Shangri-La, they don't understand. They will not understand. So it's better for you to just take the name card with you the whole time, or write down the addresses in order for you to avoid all that hassle. In Mexico, it's different, you know. Public transportation maybe is not going to be that safe, but if you are having a taxi and that, people will usually be able to understand you. But it's not very safe to go down the metro or that. I myself don't usually ride public transportation in Mexico, but I do love public transportation in China. Regarding accommodation, many hotels and hostels cater solo female travelers and female-only dorms in China. Consider staying in a well-reviewed place in central location for convenience and safety. Okay, in this regard, by the way, yes, I've been staying in such places when I was traveling, like let's say in Guilin, there was this hostel where they have like just solo female like rooms. It was amazing. And there's another one which I love. It's called YMCA in Hong Kong. Yeah, I love that place because it's very clean. It's quite spacious, and it's a very good price rate for the room and the service. And it's located in Bangkok. So I've been there a few times. The first time I discovered it was back in the day when the train stopped suddenly. I was going to Central, but it was bumped, you know. I don't remember if you know, but the dark mask era in Hong Kong where there were so many protests. So we were forced to go down the train, and I walk and keep walking until I found somewhere to stay, and I found that place. Somehow it ended up being a blessing because after that I've been staying in that place for a few times, and I feel if I didn't end up experiencing that horrible experience that night when the MTR was bombed, and it was just not nice, and walking, I walk a lot, I couldn't have discovered this place. So yeah, if you are wanting just to stay in a like women's place, yeah, it's up to you. Also in Mexico we do have this kind of accommodation places. So staying in Airbnb whenever you're traveling to Mexico, it's a common thing to do because it's cheaper, it's safe, and also is quite clean and efficient. It's safe, once again, just for you to know. Because when I was traveling in China, I didn't end up like staying in an Airbnb, although I know that in some areas they do have Airbnbs. Like in Guangzhou, there was one friend that visited me, by the way, when I was in Shenzhen, and he ended up staying in an Airbnb. However, they do have this kind of service apartments in China. I stayed this time that I was back, and it's very comfortable. It's just like an Airbnb, but it doesn't work like that. Somehow it's not in the platform, it's in other apps, but it's all there. Like you have the fridge, you have like, it's just like your apartment. There's a kitchen, there's a laundry room for you to wash the clothes. They will provide soap, and they have, of course, a shower. So it's well equipped. I will strongly recommend you to stay in service apartments if you are staying a long-term stay, if you're traveling to China. Otherwise, there are so many beautiful hotels all around China that very cheap, very convenient, safe, clean, and nice. It's just that China does offer a variety of hotels, and somehow the prices in China of like accommodation, hotel rooms are just cheaper compared to Mexico. Maybe on a rate will be like, if a room costs in China, let's say 100 USD, here will be costing 300 or 350 or 400 even. So I found out that it was very cheap to be like staying in beautiful hotels in China, even 5-star ones, not like the well-recognized or like, international ones, but like Chinese ones. Compared to like Mexico, it'll be very hard to have that kind of accommodation for those prices. So that's a very good positive aspect of being traveling in China and saving on accommodation, or not spending that much in accommodation. Nonetheless, stay in well-rated ones, so for you to have the best experience, as is already granted by others. So this was my review. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section what was your experience as a solo female traveling in China or in Mexico, and what else did I miss to say in this video that you consider important. If you ended up liking this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you finish this video, let me know with a heart, with a red heart, for me to understand that you did complete the video, as well as be welcome to contact me in the description box. I will give you my contact info. And if you are liking my videos, also be welcome to support me. Until the next time, kisses to the world. Bye bye.